Hello, it's Martin with yet another car from the IAA Munich Motor Show. And this is the Xpeng P7, the latest generation, not to be confused with the P7 Plus, which is a much more luxury, comfort-oriented vehicle. This is going back to the roots of what made the P7 popular. It's essentially a Tesla Model 3 competitor in the compact sports saloon class. And in my opinion, it's an example of how fantastic a Chinese vehicle can be without it trying to imitate anyone, when you actually let the engineers and designers do their own thing. Let me give you a quick walk around so you know what to expect. Firstly, just look at it. Super futuristic, with this visor going across the front and a light bar, which is not just a traditional light bar, but you also have some vertical daytime running lights on the front corners. Xpeng calls that lighting signature Xsmart Face, and like it or not, it's expected to trickle through the rest of their lineup as well. Moving across to the side, you've got very simple surfacing, and that's what actually makes it quite futuristic. It has this retro futuristic vibe at the same time, with not too many lines, very different to what you may expect from a Chinese manufacturer. It's a clean, minimal design rather than being busy with a lot of design accents. Of course, we've got flush door handles. A charge port is located on the right rear side in this case, but this may be different for when it comes into Europe, because obviously we've got the GBT and Chinese Type 2 port. We close that back up, all motorized, and one of the fastest motorized charging ports ever. On the back, we have got this swooping fastback design, and if you actually look from the side profile, the wing is the thing which extends all the way to the back, and then the bumper comes further back down. Again, an interesting design touch, which you don't really see elsewhere in the industry, at least not often. We also have a pop-up wing, and if I open the tailgate, which features two cameras, by the way, unlike a Tesla Model 3, it is a liftback, which makes it a little bit more practical. The boot doesn't have much height. This is about maybe 30-ish centimeters, but there is quite a decent bit of underfloor storage as well, and the boot is very long. Obviously the seats can fold as well, and all motorized, standard stuff. And the design of the front lights is mirrored in the back with a horizontal light bar and vertical light elements on the sides. That sporty silhouette contributes very positively to fantastic aerodynamic performance. I will be honest, with Chinese manufacturers, I do sometimes take the numbers with a pinch of salt, but Xpeng quotes a coefficient of drag of 0.201. which is probably one of the most aerodynamic, if not the most aerodynamic production vehicle out there. And it's particularly impressive given the fact that it still has regular wing mirrors instead of digital camera mirrors. The reason why I'm saying is that I take these numbers with a pinch of salt is because some manufacturers calculate the drag when the vehicle is stationary and the wheels are not spinning, whereas others do it quote-unquote properly at speed with the wheels rotating, which can disrupt airflow and hence slightly increase that CD value. Jumping into the driver's seat now, before I get in, we can see frameless windows with double pane glass, and it seems like quite a thick insulation layer in between them. The door cards are extremely high quality, as you would expect, obviously soft touch materials on the top, but even going further down, this is a nicely textured plastic. This is the only bit which is a bit harder, but still nicely put together. And if I jump in and adjust my seat to an actually comfortable seating position without hopefully squishing the people in the back, this is where the P7 is truly unique. If you look at the cockpit, it looks like absolutely nothing else on the market. You have got a slim instrument cluster display, which feels like something from a fighter jet. A very small steering wheel, because you do not need a big opening to look through to see the instruments. Stalks right behind that, standard stuff. Very nice quality buttons, which are real buttons, no haptic buttons, and two customizable rollers. And dedicated buttons, which look like something from a Porsche or a Hyundai Ioniq 5N. More driving information is projected right into the windscreen through this massive augmented reality heads-up display, This is something which is very difficult to show on camera, but do trust me that it is extremely clear. It seems like a very high brightness heads-up display, but it's something which I would need to test out in direct sunlight outside. A cute little nifty feature is this touch symbol here on the door trim, and that's a customizable button, and you can set it to do different things based on your preference, so you don't have to touch the screen while driving. And again, in terms of quality, super soft touch materials on the dash, nice accent trims with ambient lighting, and even underneath that, even the bottom of the dashboard all the way going to my feet is padded and nice and squishy. The air vents are very similar to something like a Tesla Model 3 or Model Y, where they are hidden in the dash and they provide a very evenly distributed airflow across the entire cabin. I would like to know who exactly develops the software for these infotainment systems, because these icons look remarkably similar to the latest MG infotainment system, but at least it's all nice and responsive. And if we look into the settings menu, this appears very familiar, and that's because it follows the same layout as the Tesla infotainment system. But to be fair, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And I think many manufacturers have realized that if you do a big touchscreen in the middle to control most of vehicle functions, this is the way to do it, because it means most things are no more than 2 taps away. And to be fair, as long as the computing hardware is fast enough, it makes for a good user experience. The map is not loading at the moment because the vehicle seems to still be the Chinese version, so it probably doesn't have the European mapping data, but quite neatly you can also see that you can split the screen between multiple apps, enabling you to multitask, and you can choose how much of each app you want to see. One aspect of the infotainment which was a bit difficult to demonstrate, as the voice assistant didn't seem very talkative on the day, in English nor Chinese, is the screen movement. The panel itself is mounted using 3 actuators, meaning it can tilt left-right as well as up-down. With a bit of effort, I managed to find the corresponding setting in the menu and change the angle manually between the 3 presets. In the middle, we have got 2 wireless phone chargers with active ventilation. At the bottom, but if you prefer a wired connection, you've got a USB-C and a USB-A port down in the center console. And given this is built on a pure electric architecture, of course you have got plenty of storage space underneath the phone chargers. This is the door opening button, all electronic releases. The seats appear super comfortable, nicely padded with significant enough side bolstering and an extendable base as well, with a nice mixture of material, perforated leather and a microfiber type cloth on the side. With the front seat now set roughly to my driving position, I want to see how much space we have in the back, and it's actually not too bad. And this is where it feels like a bit of a step up compared to the Model 3, but it's not a surprise because it is a slightly longer vehicle. There's a lot more knee room. However, because it's a low slung sedan, you do share the same issues with sitting quite low down and not having much under thigh support. Luckily, you do still have enough headroom even with the sloping roofline. The quality of the materials does not deteriorate in the second row. Still nice, soft touch, premium materials with good fit and finish, ambient lighting, and it's only this lower part which is hard plastic. I would recommend Xpeng to maybe install some carpeted inserts here, because otherwise items will rattle about in the doors, which would be a shame to otherwise ruin a very quiet cabin. Once I shut the door, even with the front door open, you can hopefully hear how quiet it is. It feels like a truly proper, premium, refined vehicle. In the middle, there is a small touchscreen to control the air conditioning, the heated seats. You can also control the media, and there are some additional apps here for multimedia to keep your kids entertained as well. Air conditioning vent, and underneath that are 2 USB ports, both of which seem to support power delivery, given they are quite beefy at 60 watts. Like you would expect, you get a full-length panoramic glass roof. Due to the shape of it, it's not opening and there is no physical sunshade, but it seems quite heavily tinted, so I can't imagine it being a problem even in hot weather. And of course we have a Frunk as well. Interestingly, being designed properly. There is no secondary latch to undo, similar to a Tesla Model 3, but unfortunately this is where the packaging isn't quite on par with some of the competition. It seems like a lot of the drivetrain electronics have moved just in front of the bulkhead, which means that yes, you do have a little bit of storage space here for your tire repair kit, your warning triangle, accessories like that. I don't think this would even be big enough to store a Type 2 cable here in Europe. As you can imagine, with most of these high-tech Chinese electric cars, there is a huge focus on automated driving. And Xpeng is doing something different to most other brands in China, and it is excluding LIDAR. In fact, I believe previous Xpengs had LIDAR as part of their sensor suite, but that has now been dropped. Some of them are completely vision only, but the P7 in this iteration also includes multiple millimeter wave for the high resolution radars. That sounds like a lot of marketing speak, but there is actually a big difference between a normal radar, which can measure distance to objects, the velocity based on the Doppler effect, and also the azimuth, so you know from left to right where objects are located and how fast or slowly you are approaching them. Whereas with 4D radar, the fourth dimension which the car or the sensor can detect is elevation as well, and combined with higher precision, it should mean fewer phantom braking incidents, yet still having the benefits of radar, especially in inclement weather conditions. But of course, the vehicle is still absolutely covered with cameras, and unlike Tesla, there are traditional ultrasonic sensors as well. Of course, it's a car at the end of the day, and I haven't touched on the drivetrain, so forgive me for looking at my phone, but I just want to get the specs right. There are two battery versions available, a 74.9 kWh LFP with 702 kilometers of CLTC range. CLTC is absolutely meaningless. It's way more optimistic than even WLTP, which is not representative of real-world conditions. So expect maybe about 250-ish miles on the charge. The bigger battery is a 92.2 kWh NMC pack, which should offer about 100 kilometers or 60 miles of additional range on top of the base pack. Single motor rear-wheel drive will be standard, and the performance version will feature dual motors for all-wheel drive and a 0 to 60 time of about 3.7 seconds with an expected power output of about 580 horsepower. Of course, the batteries are 800 volt class. The peak charging power is very impressive at over 480 kilowatts with 10 to 80% quoted in approximately 11 minutes. Keep in mind, Xpeng is now entering many European markets, including the UK, and while the P7 is not available yet, I believe we only get the G6 for now, I would be very keen to see this on our roads, and I would definitely want to get my hands on one. Thanks again for watching. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to hit the like button. If you want to see more EVs from the IAA, make sure to subscribe to the channel, and I will see you in the next one.